Hi everyone, John Cottrell here of MBODY Yoga, and I want to demonstrate a very popular type of yoga pose, and that's a back bend. Now in yoga, a back bend is called a heart opener, which means that we're opening up through this area of the body. Because we're creating this arched-like sensation in the body, like a back bend, we're opening up the heart space. And so again, in yoga, back bends are called heart openers. So I wanted to show you two in particular, two back bends. One is called bridge pose or Setu Bandhasana. Setu Bandhasana, bridge pose. And the other is fish pose or Matsiasana. Fish pose, Matsiasana. Now both are very nice and quite easy to do actually. We're going to start with bridge pose because we can break it down in a way where you can feel very supported in the posture or even take it into a much more dynamic position. Now these are nice demonstrations and actually warm-ups for more intense back bend sensations. One of them is called wheel pose. We're not going to be doing wheel pose today, but two other postures that will help you get ready for something that's a little bit more dynamic. So let's start with bridge pose. Now you might want to use a couple of props for both of these positions. And the props I'm going to use for this are actually a couple of blocks like this. So I'm going to have those nearby right there. And I'm going to be using a bolster, but I'm going to be using that for Matsiasana or fish pose. And underneath my bolster, I have a blanket. And the blanket is just for some cushioning for my head, okay? So let me just move my bolster out of the way for a moment and have the blanket here ready for my bridge pose. This is how I'm going to use it. First, I'm going to open it up so I've got more of a rectangle like this. I'm going to set this down like I'm crossing the small letter T on my yoga mat. So I'm leaving some space here at the top. This is where my head is going to go. Let me move these out of the way. Let me slide this down just a bit more. Now, when we lie down, because we're going to be lying down for this, my shoulders are going to be right along the edge of the blanket here, and my head will be on the mat. I'm doing this because the blanket, because in its folded fashion, creates a little lift, and it creates a nice space for this natural curvature that you have in your neck, so that you're able to keep a nice straight spine and also be able to breathe normally and not feel a compression in your low back. And we're doing that by creating that little lift with the folded blanket. You may need to play with that a little bit just based on your curvature in the neck, because we're all shaped a little differently. We're going to be using the blocks as a way to help lift up the hips. So let's go ahead and break this down together. Let's go ahead and lie down. And like I said, I'm going to lie down with my shoulders right along the edge of my blanket, and my head is on the mat, right there. Now you know what? I'm going to actually fold my blanket one more time because I think I need a little bit more of a lift right here. So let's try that. I think that'll work nicely. Yes, that's much better. So then I'd be able to keep that natural curve in the neck or in the upper spine area. We're going to lie down with the knees bent, feet flat on the ground like this, and your arms are just down by your side. Now your blocks can be just by your side. We're going to do a supported bridge pose. All we're doing is being sure that the knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor, and we want to create a nice straight line so your knees are stacked nicely over the ankle bones right there, because that's going to give us the leverage that we need to actually lift the hips up into the air. You might even use your arms like this, keeping them at a 90-degree angle to help press into the floor or blanket to also help you lift. Once you've lifted, you can just maintain that lift on your own or sit on some blocks, which is what we'll do this first time. So here we go. I'm going to take a nice full breath in to fill up that heart space, knowing that this is a heart opener. I'm going to exhale and engage the belly, then press feet firmly into the ground to lift the hips straight up into the air.
Now that my hips are lifted, my hands are free, I'm going to slide these blocks underneath right there, and I can literally just sit on the blocks. Now this is a very comfortable and supported back bend or bridge pose. We're already feeling this nice opening up through the chest. And you can even just relax right here. If we wanted to go a little further and create more of that back bend feel, we can do this. So I want to make sure that I can press my feet firmly into the ground, lift the hips. I'm going to move the blocks out of the way for this one. Use my arms, bending them 90 degrees, pressing the elbows down into the blanket. You can see I'm actually lifting my hips up a little higher and opening and expanding the chest a little bit more. Setu Bandhasana, bridge pose. We're just going to hold here. At each inhale, you're just filling up your lungs. Exhale and engaging the belly. There's a dynamic of still pressing into the ground with the feet as well as the backs of the arms. If you're able, you can see maybe I'm just kind of rocking left and right a little bit, squeezing my shoulder blades together underneath and actually engaging my upper back muscles. If you're able to do that, then you can squeeze the shoulder blades together, engaging those muscles to help support your posture. You might feel this in your thighs, your hips, a nice open chest, squeezing the upper back muscles. Bridge pose. To come out of this pose safely, I would suggest just wiggle the toes forward a little bit, extend your arms into the air. That should begin that nice release, and then roll your way down to the ground. And you can relax here for a few moments. So that's bridge pose. Now we're just move on to Matsiasana, or fish pose. I'm still going to use these props, mainly the blanket. I'm going to pull in that bolster. Now in this back bend, I call it an extended back bend. Your legs are going to remain straight, and the back bend is going to happen a little bit more in the upper back region, which is called your thoracic spine. So I'm going to place a blanket here at the top of the mat, and again, that's going to be just for my head. And then the bolster is just going to allow me to kind of just basically just drape my body over to open up through the chest, but to create that little bending sensation in the upper back region, which tends to be a little tight for some folks. Now this is another modified version of the posture. I'll do the modified version and then I'll show you what it can look like without the use of props. So here, we're going to lie down and just kind of drape yourself over this big pillow. And it's kind of the upper back. And your head is going to lean or just drape over the back. Now the floor feels a little bit too far away for me. And I don't like to get my head back too far, because then it feels a little bit of a compression in my neck and I can't breathe. That's why I want to use this blanket. So I'm going to bring that blanket in. Again, I'm going to fold it right there. That way my head can rest on that and it doesn't feel strained in the neck. So that feels much better. Just like this. And you can see I've just kind of created this arched over sensation. So there's the heart opener right there. Legs are straight. You can even point your toes at the end there. And that's the posture. You can just really kind of relax here and take a few breaths. All right, so that's the modified version, just using props. Let me show you the other way that you might see in picture books or in just another format. So using no props for this, lying down. So nice and straight in the body. You might elongate through the legs and point your toes. You're going to bend your elbows here like this. You're going to push into the ground in order to lift up your upper body, like you're just like lifting yourself up out of bed maybe. Lifting up, arching the back, tipping the head back, and the crown of the head resting lightly on the ground. So I'm looking at the wall behind me. So I've created that same arched opening sensation in the chest, but just not draped over anything. You can keep the elbows bent and press the elbows into the ground to help the lift, or if a little bit more dynamic, you can take the hands out front. To come out of the pose, you might want to press the elbows into the ground, lift the head, tuck the chin in towards the chest so you can lie back down so you're nice and straight on the ground.
Very nice. So those are 2 back bends. Matsiasana, fish pose, and Setu Bandhasana, bridge pose. And again, those can be done in a modified version using props or free of props as you open up through your heart space. Great way to just open up the body and even prepare you for some more dynamic back bends in yoga. Thanks for joining me. My name is John, MBODY Yoga.